Welcome. This morning, I am joined by Sean, aka the Overmaster. Sean, you recently won the Draft Open and will be competing at this year's Eternal World Championships. Thanks so much for joining us today. And today, we're going to get a chance to learn a little bit more about you and about how you managed to become one of our World Championship competitors. So, first of all, why don't you tell people at home sort of who you are, where you're coming from, and what you'd like people to know about you?
I'm Sean. Most of the community knows me as Theo. It's the first four letters of my tag, the Overmaster. I'm from Newfoundland originally, which is crazy because, of course, Carnage from the previous Open is also from Newfoundland. But I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia now, just outside of Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm an unemployed electrical engineer, let's say. I have the degree, but I haven't yet got a job for it.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, Carnage, a Canadian, so Canada going to have a strong presence at the upcoming World Championships. And so let's talk about a little bit about you and your journey starting to play Eternal. So do you remember when you first started playing, and what was the first card that you encountered that really jumped out to you?
I believe it was August of 2016. I got the beta and then didn't really do anything with it for a few months. It was like May that I got in the beta. And then I got the second invite for a friend. And that's when I got into it. The first card that stuck out to me was probably either Chrono Possibilities or Clockroaches. I guess they go hand in hand, right? I remember Sunnyvale had made a list called Dark Roaches, where he splashed for Dark Return and a normal Clockroaches deck to add more recursion, and that really kind of got me hooked on the game. Yeah.
Very cool. And so let's dive in and talk about the Draft Open. First of all, what was it like for you preparing for that event? Did you have high expectations going in?
I mean, I didn't really have high expectations going in because I'm normally not really a draft player. I didn't really have high expectations for this one. I prepared as I would prepare for any other tournament, getting together with my team.
So what was your team's sort of takeaways as you were getting ready for the format? What things were you really hoping to be able to do when it came time to draft your decks for both the qualifying rounds and then the top 64?
My team, the Barbarian camp, forgot to mention that. We mostly kind of zeroed in on time and justice as the main two factions, with a little nod to Primal because of the buffs, the recent buffs to the Observer and Gnashing Displacer, I believe. Time with Open Way Supplier and Populous Controller and Telekinetic Shackles. Those are the three commons. It was definitely far and away the best. What was really annoying in preparation for this event was kind of that we kind of figured out very, very early on that time was very, very good, strong, but it kept on coming. So I had to eventually, what I had to do was I had to stop drafting time for a little bit, even though I knew that it was open, so that I could, get a feel for the other colors.
Do any of the decks that you drafted in the qualifying round stand out to you? Were any of them particularly juicy?
If you recall, that was the time when I messed up. When I messed up. You don't want to go too far.
We could tell that story. So
yeah.
As one of the things as a designer on the game is that sometimes I'm, and as somebody who's heavily involved in organized play systems, I'm sometimes called in to look into like, hey, we got a report, maybe something's going off here. And Sean, you reported that, hey, I was able to get out of the draft in the event and then get back in and get a new set of packs. We're like, oh, that sounds really bad if that's going on, because then you could maybe just keep rolling until you get a pack that you really like. Yep. Do you want to tell what actually happened there?
I actually joined a regular draft. I honestly thought I had joined the event, and I just saw a different set of picks, and I was, and at that point, like, you know, you can start doing stuff with the client and stuff, but like, what if you mess it up really quite a bit further, right? So I just contacted support, and eventually we figured out that I'm, uh yeah. Anyway, it's kind
Well,
of weird that I won the event afterward. That's so funny. It is so funny. But
yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about it. Well, I think you got some good karma, because what happened, because the bug that you thought you encountered was a potential exploit.
right.
But rather than try to just take advantage of the exploit, you're like, well, I want this to be like a tournament with integrity. You let us know about it. And turns out there was no bug the whole time. It was just a little simple mix up. These things happen, but karma had your back the rest of the weekend, it seems like. So you make it to the top 64, and now it's like, oh, and so, you mentioned maybe you're not the heaviest draft player in the world. That's maybe not your first format, but now you're in the top 64. What's sort of your mindset like coming out of Saturday, knowing the next day you're going to have a chance to play in a single elimination tournament where the end point is you win thousands of dollars and you could make it to the World Championships?
Well, this is the first time I got to draft in an open in the top 64 setting. It's really fun. Like you get to you got to if you have a second monitor, like I mean, some people don't have second monitor. Some people use mobile and whatnot. But if you do have a second monitor, having your opponent's deck, or at least their pool, you kind of figure it out beforehand. Like you have like 5 minutes or something to figure out what they did, but you have it open on your screen, and you can figure out every single trick, every single stealth unit they have, and that's something that perhaps, I mean, I don't know how much of an advantage it is, but I do have a lot of experience in open deck list formats.
With stealth units, the range of what they could have is definitely smaller when you don't know their deck list, but the fullest of cards that they drafted once you get to that top 64 stage. And the reason why we did that, of course, is so that for the players who were playing on stream or were drafting on camera during the event, that they weren't at a disadvantage where their opponents would know more about what they had than the other way around. When it comes to stealth units, did it make you want to try to draft like a lot of stealth units so they would have fewer idea of what was coming, or did it make you maybe want to avoid it because you couldn't as much get the surprise?
I don't think it changed my ordering that much. I guess it kind of did, because I didn't draft Primal, right? Primal, it has the that's the main focus of Primal, and of course time, right? The time Primal, the Elysian combination is mostly a stealth based combination, and so I wasn't really looking to draft that, but it definitely gave me a huge advantage. Like there's, for example, the Maveloth Botanist is certainly a lot easier if you know that's their only stealth unit, or it's one of their two stealth units or something like that. And you have a topple, for example, in hand. If you saw on the broadcast, I did have a topple in hand, and my opponent had a Maveloth Botanist, and I knew it was a Maveloth Botanist because you can target with the topple, and you don't have to actually use the topple. You just know if you can't target it with the Maveloth Botanist with the topple, then you know that it's less than your units, right? So it's 100% a Maveloth Botanist, and I was able to take a what would seem like a risky block, but no, it was not risky at all, right?
Did you have any close calls in those first three matches in the top 64 run? Obviously, you won all 6 on the day, but were there any nail biters?
My round against a rank 13, a teammate, those games were long and grindy. And their deck was very good. So it felt like I was in control for most of those games. But I think that was probably the closest match of the top 64.
So you get through the first 3 rounds on Sunday. That means you're in the top 8. You're going to be getting cash prizes, but certainly your run's not done there. Now you've got to draft another deck. What was it like for you in that next draft? Was it smooth sailing, and where did you end up?
Oh my, that was smooth sailing. I can tell you that. I opened up an Azrog, and it didn't relent from there. And actually, it wasn't the deck was strong, especially with the Azrog, for the first 3 packs. But it wasn't quite what it became, because then I opened up two Orange Jailers and Manacles, and that's when I knew that I would probably have the best deck in the field. I just had to I had to use the deck and actually win with it, right?
Do you remember what your reaction was like when you sort of realized you had it locked up in that finals?
I think I live in a basement in a residential area, and I think somebody may have heard my yell outside. Yeah, I was pretty happy about it. I mean, obviously, I knew I didn't know I had locked it up until the end, but like, I mean, it was looking pretty good. It was looking like all I needed was a top deck sigil, right? And I won that game.
Anytime you're in that spot where it's like, well, if I draw a sigil, my turn's really good. But if I also draw a non-sigil, I'm probably drawing something pretty good. That's a pretty nice spot you've gotten yourself into. All right, so let's take a step back now. So now you're qualified for Worlds. Let's talk a little bit about how you got there. Do you sort of what would you say was sort of your biggest level up moment, a moment when you realized you sort of had taken your game to another level? Because, you know, nobody's born being a great player in anything. And so what sort of got you to this point, and what was like a key moment for you along that journey?
Sort of the story I like to say is that Manuel, who doesn't stream the game anymore, but he used to. But if you recall, he was a world competitor at some point, right? I was, you know, memeing around, and I was, you know, playing decks that weren't necessarily great and whatnot, right? I kind of knew that, but Manuel is the first one who's like, "You're good. Please play good decks. You know, please play good decks. You will definitely you'll definitely get better at it." And that's kind of what happened, right? You know, you start putting more focus on competitive play in that way. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and if all you're trying to do is just have a good time, play whatever you want. But I had a similar wake up call in the past with a friend telling me, you know, like, aren't you trying to win this thing? Do you want to win? And I was like, well, yeah. Then why don't you try playing the deck you think is actually the best? It's like, oh, it seems kind of obvious and fun, but it, you know, when you're just trying to enjoy yourself, it can be easy to talk yourself into playing the meme deck.
Yeah, if the deck isn't like if the best deck, if you determine what the best deck is, and it's like, you know, let's say 30% of the field, that maybe you can take a counter to it as of that point. But if it's, you know, 15% of the field, probably just play the best deck, you know?
Right. Because even if your cards really line up well against them, well, you don't play against the 15% of the field that often. You play against it, I think, about 15% of the time. No.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be my advice. Of course, everybody's going to determine what in a wide meta, everybody's going to have a different idea what the best deck is. But as long as you think you know what the best deck is, like, take that deck. Like, don't mess around with you know, going crazy with other decks. Although, now that I'm qualified for Worlds, we might see some spicy action. We might see some spicy action.
Yeah, there's a throne open, well, going on right now. It's possible you could be in the top 64. What do we think? Are you going to play in the throne open that we're currently watching, and how meme is your deck going to be?
I mean, there may be some kilos involved. There may be kilos involved. There may be some Kimonis involved. We'll see. I will be playing. Well, I mean, in this throne open that you guys are watching right now, I will be playing in it, barring, you know, strange circumstances.
For people at home who are interested in sort of getting better at the game, obviously it sounds like you've had success by going on Discord and getting connected with other players. But as far as sort of playing the game, do you have any advice for people in terms of how they use the removal, how they choose opening hands, anything that you've picked up over the years that you think could help take somebody from their game where they're enjoying their time on ladder, but they're trying to become a more successful tournament player?
I mean, there's so many different things, you know. It's a minor thing, but it does get you focused. Like hiding pauses. Like what I was doing in the tournament. You go watch the VOD. You can see, you know, I would play only fire such because I knew that the only trick I really had that would be worth hiding is a finest hour in my deck, right? So that's what I would always do. things like that are fairly minor, I think, but they do get you more focused. In terms of mulligan decisions, like this mulligan system is very, very forgiving. The fact that it's 2, 3, 4, and 33%, 33%, 33%, uh, in terms of power means that your second hand is most likely going to be on average better than your first hand. If you're looking for cards, mulligan your first hand and then probably keep the 7 if it's reasonable. If you ever need to get, I'm, 90% of my day right now, because I'm unemployed, whatever, is hung out. I hang out in the WSG Discord, and if you need if you need to talk to me, one-on-one, or any of the really good top players, we're hanging out in there. We don't necessarily just play Eternal too, like we hang out, do other things as well.
Well, definitely, it sounds like they should look out for you on Discord, and I found that people really getting asked to give advice, especially if it's within the context of like, hey, you're really good at something. How do I be good at it too? People really enjoy that, and I think people worry too often that, oh, you're going to like take up this person's time, but honestly, people like telling you like why they think they're good at things, and so it sounds like you would be open to it if people wanted to reach out to you, and that's great. Taking a step back from sort of the competitive side, let's have some fun and talk about some of your favorite things in Eternal. So first off, just what's your favorite format? What's the one that you enjoy most when you just want to kind of unwind?
Probably just the Throne or Expedition. In constructed format, I'm usually a constructed player. If I really 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 want to unwind, usually I build a new deck and then play that in the something crazy or something.
What gives you inspiration when you're building a new deck? What kinds of things are you looking for?
I mean, going to Eternal Warcry, and just like, some people have some great ideas there, and then like you change some things around. So deck building is hard, right? Some people have different ideas about deck building, and also that they may not be they may not have quite as much experience in deck building, but their ideas are really good, and then you can just like conglomerate.
Do you have a favorite all-time deck that you've played in the game?
Probably Haunted Highway. I mean, that way back in the day, the 3-faction FPS deck that SkiJ originally designed. The SkiJ, and I took and modified the power base and added, and basically the form that looks very much close to the form that was played in high level play when it was the best deck, in my opinion. Nod also to 5-faction Kilovox, the 5-faction Kilovox that I designed with Yottabite in the Expedition format that time, with Jack and Gentle Grazer in a 5-faction deck. That was fun, and that was a fun experience.
Do you have an all-time favorite card in the game?
It sucks that it kind of became mainstream now a little bit. It's Whispering Wind was always like one of my favorite cards way back in the day, because it asked you to build your deck in specific ways, right? And you could get really creative with it. For example, when I first used it, I was discarding Bloodright Callus to get a Smuggler Stash, right? So you'd always have a chance to get back all your Bloodright Calluses with it. But that, of course, now Whispering Wind is used mostly as a way to get Krull, right?
Do see that quite a bit. Do you have a favorite card in the game that you enjoyed just for its art?
Well, really, I think most of the Grenadins have pretty sweet card arts, but one that I really like quite a bit is Oblivia Body. So chill, leaning back in his chair. Just that one.
Well, my next question was gonna be, what's your favorite tribe in Eternal? What's your favorite unit type? Is it Grenadin or something else gonna edge them out?
I think Grenadin. I really like Sacrifice Synergies. I have played Yetis to a large amount of success, or even Elves, but I think Grenadin's kind of edges out on all of them right now.
Do you have a card in the game that it's maybe not the best card, maybe not the most consistent tournament player, but it's one that you can't quit playing? It's a pet card for you?
this is a shout out to my peeps in Discord. I guess a jetpack. That's the I play a lot of bad cards, but like jetpack is the one that I played for quite a bit there for a little while, and it hasn't worked out that well. But you know what? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. You know, they can't play spells until your next turn. It's great. It's great.
If it never worked, you wouldn't keep coming back to it, right?
That's right.
And is there a card that always has your number? It maybe just seems to line up super well against the kind of decks you like to play. If somebody's trying to beat you, what should they be playing?
What's the card? Grand Suppressor is the card that always nukes whatever I'm doing.
Do you have, so we got a lot of battle skills in the game. If you could have one of the eternal battle skills in real life, which one would it be?
Probably flying. I think that soaring through the air would be pretty sweet. I have to deal with the vertigo problem, but I'm sure that, you know, if you do it for enough, then you get rid of that problem. But I think it would be really sweet to just be able to fly.
And if we were to ask sort of your teammates or your friends, which card is the most overmaster of all the cards? Which is what's the card when people see it, they would think of you maybe more than anyone else?
Haunting Scream for sure. You know, I've done so much with that card over the years. You know, I've screamed basically anything that I could get my hands on. I've screamed.
Every card every unit in the game that costs 5 or less has been screamed at least once by you, it sounds like. All right. Before we go, though, I wanted to give you a chance. Now that you've got me here, you know, somebody who works on the game and helps make all these cards come to life, is there anything that I can answer? Any burning questions about how these cards come to life, where they come from? Anything else about the game you might want to know about?
So I guess a feature request would be in order, I guess. The challenge mode is a little bare bones still, I think. Now I don't know how big of a priority is it for you guys. Being able to challenge just the expedition format would be fine, but like things like maybe Pauper or Peasant would be some interesting thing as well, so that the random cards that get generated get generated don't get generated outside the format that you're in. Like Speaking Circle, of course, was, you know, famous for being really annoying to play against, because you could get you get a wide variety of cards from Throne, whereas you would kind of know about what you'd expect in Expedition or something like that. And we have, for example, for Peasant tournaments, we have to ban the Conjurings, because of course they get, you know, rares and legendaries, right? And that's just outside of the scope of the format.
Yeah, definitely. It's challenge mode is definitely, or adding to what you can do when you friend challenge somebody is definitely higher up on the list of things that we would like to do. And certainly getting some of those, like getting the random card pool right for the friend challenge, for the, like you mentioned, the invoke cards, the Conjurings, that's definitely one of those features that we would definitely like to have. But it's you know, this is one of those cases where I'm taking some notes, just because it's helpful to get the perspective of our people who are involved in the community tournament organizing scene about what sorts of things would make their life easier. You know, as I always like to say, I'm never going to announce anything new that's coming up, but I could definitely say that some of those features you pointed out are things they're interested in as well. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine, I don't really care too much, but the friend of mine would like the MMR more visible, right? The MMR system more visible, I guess, because what's really annoying about it is that if you're really high up in the rank, you don't know how far you are away from the first place ranking. Right, or even in between, like different levels, like you know you'll be stuck at rank 10, and so you have no idea why. It's like you win 40 games in a row, and then, you know, so all of a sudden you jump up to like rank 3 or something, right? But you don't really know why that's happening behind the scenes.
That, yep, I could sympathize with all that. We both want to make it so that, you know, it's you feel like when you're playing on ladder, like you have the opportunity to move up in ranks, but also if somebody's won a lot yesterday, we don't necessarily want to just have their progress go away for nothing. And we want you to feel like you playing your games on ladder is going to help you advance if you're trying to get higher up in the leaderboard. And that's something we're always looking at better ways to do and tinker with. But so definitely can appreciate where your friend's coming from with that. Before we go, is there anyone else that you want to make sure you shout out? Anything else you want to get out there to the people?
I guess you can follow me at twitch.tv/theovermaster. I don't know if that's
nothing wrong with a plug. So that's twitch.tv/theovermaster.
I occasionally stream. I'm sure I'm sure many people have caught a stream. I don't stream very often, but I intend to do it. I always say that I intend to do it more often, and it doesn't happen quite that frequently. But yeah.
Well, if you want the Overmaster to stream more Twitch chat, you can make your voices heard right now. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Sean. And we're going to get back to the tournament in just a moment, but want to thank you and wish you luck in the World Championships that you'll be competing in, where you'll have a chance to become the World Champion of Eternal. That'd be pretty cool for you, I imagine. And we'll be following along, and it was great getting to know you, and you gave a real great sense of who you are and how you approach the game. And I'm sure everyone at home was able to take away a lot in terms of what they could do if they want to be joining you at that World Championships. So with that, we're going to send it back to the booth for the conclusion of the Throne Open. And thanks once again to Sean for joining us.
Thank you for having me.